fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode of the Weekly Crusaders. My name's Sean Waskrew. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels, and we are back for another week of talking about two movies that came out during this week in movie history. Week being February 5th through the 11th. We've got one movie that we both are very fond of, and then we got another movie because Brian loves picking these special kind of films. One thing real quick before we start, and I know Brian says he doesn't like to talk about current event stuff on these because then if people click on it, then they're like, well, it doesn't keep it, then we're, it feels dated. But this is something that I actually am really wanting to talk about real quick. So we're taking a little sidebar before we jump into these two movies. AMC's price seating.
Oh, that.
Yes, that. No, I wasn't going to bring up the Fast X trailer. We already talked about that on camera. So right now, me personally, the nearest AMC to me is an hour away. So I don't have an AMC near me right now. Now, when I lived in Nebraska, I had AMCs all around me. But Brian, you have an AMC next to you, but you're an A-lister. So it doesn't affect A-listers?
That's correct. A-listers will not be paying the additional fee. Yeah.
Okay. Which I would, if I had an AMC near me, I'd be an A-lister too. So it wouldn't affect me. But
yeah,
this is fucking stupid.
It's stupid on many levels. Well, first of all, the only theaters in my entire city. I'm the third largest city in my state. First one being Chicago, and we have only two theaters in town, and they're both AMCs. And so, actually, the nearest non-AMC theater is probably a good 45 minutes away. So I'm a prisoner to them anyway. But I like AMC theaters. The A-list is phenomenal program.
I love their chain. They have a good chain. Their food's good. I like their theaters. For anyone who doesn't know what the hell we're talking about, which it's weird that you're clicking on our video and you don't know what the hell we're talking about. AMC released this week, it was this week, that they're now going to do different pricing based on where you want to sit in a theater. Now, when I first heard about this is before I saw the seating chart, I figured bottom row's red, middle is the like normal, and then like the top like few rows are the more expensive. No, in the dumbest of dumbest seating charts, it's right fucking down the middle. Because I saw I saw a seating chart thing, and it looked like it was the
right. But that's correct. Why would you have the top rows be the most expensive when you're way up in the back?
People usually like being higher up and stuff. I always assume that, but at least that's how I always go in. I always like being the highest up because I don't like people throwing. Well, it's because every time I don't sit high up, people throw shit, behind me and crap. And so I would rather be high up so that shit doesn't happen. So I like sitting in the back because
it's called their sightline program, and they claim it's making it more flexible because there are some people who value a cheaper ticket price, and those people, there'll be an option for them that'll be $2 less than normal tickets. And then there's people that value, they're willing to pay a little extra, so they'll have the premium seat. Those are $2 more than normal ticket price. And what is like the front couple rows are going to be the cheap ones.
And if there's a good picture of the seating chart, I'll be posting it right here as we're talking. But
yeah, the front couple, like the front row or two, are going to be the ones who are like looking straight at the screen. Those are going to be the value section, $2 less. Then it comes like a stripe up the middle of the theater. Yeah, that's the premium seating. And then like everything else in the back couple rows and around the sides is going to be just standard ticket price.
Which honestly, for me, that's where I either sit at the top or I sit in the side so I can like just get in and get out.
Well, this is basically, I think yes, they can make some more money off some people for tickets, but there's two things. One, because the A-listers don't pay it, they're basically trying to funnel people into joining their program. This is another perk or a reason to try and maneuver people into joining their program. But two, I don't know about you, but unless it's like opening night of like a Marvel movie or something like that, my theaters are never more than 30% full. So people are just going to buy the ticket over here and then move to here.
Let's put it this way. Yeah, exactly. Let's put it this way. Unless you're going to have ushers who get paid
which the ushers don't even come in and check anything during my movies. So, and they're not going to sit in the chart and figure out who sat where.
Mine have like, they have to come into the theater and they have to go to a clipboard and basically sign that they came in, but they're not checking anyone's shit. They're not. Yeah. They don't care. But you basically have to have ushers enforce this. Now, on nights like you said, opening nights with Marvel and stuff like that, when the theater is packed, they're going to be a little more like, okay, guys, where are you sitting? Because these people say that that's their seat. Like they're forced into it at that point.
Right.
they're not going to go up there and go, oh, you're sitting in the green zone. Do you have a green zone ticket, sir? In a theater with 10 people in it.
No,
because
absolutely not.
My theater that in my local town, because I'm in a small town, my theater, I think maybe since COVID, I maybe have gone into a theater that's about 80% full 3 times. 80% full for my theater is like 20% full in an AMC theater. So it's not even that huge. And it's also one of those things too. It's like, cool. If I'm gonna pay premium pricing now, adjusting, are you gonna stop these douchebags with their cell phones out and their tablets?
Oh,
no. No, you're not. So why am I gonna?
They're not going to force that. They're going to force anything. But
no.
And the thing is, like I said, this is all basically largely a ploy to get people to join their program, which I'm already a part of because it's a great advantageous program with great benefits.
It is. Not to mention, I've gotten like 5 emails in the last 2 weeks from MoviePass asking me to please join back up with them.
That's a whole different video.
I'm good.
Yeah. But the only reason this bothers me then at all, because it doesn't affect me, is that it's just like AMC is like trying to expedite the death of movie theaters. It's like you already are struggling to get people to come out anyway, and now you're giving them more reason to not come.
Like the only way that this would work, and you legally can't do this, especially after what happened with Dark Knight, is that if you walk into a movie theater, it becomes a dead zone for cell phones. Like dead zone for like internet and stuff. Like you can still call and text, which still defeats the purpose. But you go walk into a theater, it's got like a cell phone blocker in it. But then you can't do that.
And they're not going to do that because they'll be like, what if somebody needs to get an emergency phone call?
Well, yeah, you're running into the Dark Knight scenario where it's a huge liability and they'll get sued. Yeah. But it's one of those things where it's like I almost wish that there was a AMC in my town. So when there is a big night, like let's say Ant-Man gets out, and I go into the theater and it looks like the fucking Red Sea from the 10 Commandments, where it's like the yellow and red sections are full and the green sections are crisp and no one's touched them. Yeah. Not that that'll ever happen because people, like I said, they'll just go and sit in on them. But I would love to walk into a theater where the theater's like practically sold out except the green section because no one wants to pay more for that.
Which is probably what would happen if they didn't have the A-list thing.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Because once the A-listers are there, you'll be fine. Which, let's put it this way: if you're going to go see a movie on opening night, you're probably an A-lister.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a little sidebar. I just really, really wanted to actually like talk with Brian about this because it's been a busy week for both of us. We haven't got to talk a whole lot, so I really hadn't got to talk to him about this. And he actually has an AMC in his town. I'm sure people that do watch the show, you guys have AMCs in your town. I really miss having AMC because my theater sucks. It really, really sucks. The last movie I went to was still showing trailers for movies that was already out on VOD.
Okay, then.
Yeah, it was horrible. But back onto our scheduled programming. We're going to be talking about Brian's pick first. Now, Brian, we've had this situation happen on the Weekend Crusaders 2 years ago where we remember liking a movie, so we pick it, and then we go back to rewatch it, and we go, shit, I think I made a mistake. And that is kind of, I guess, what we're going to find out here with Brian's pick. Brian's pick, actually, no, I'll just say it so I can get the box office out of the way. Brian picked the, is it Thailand?
Thailand. It's from Thailand.
Thailand. The Thailand martial arts film, Ong Bak, the Thai Warrior. Ong Bak came out February 11th, 2003 in America. Had a budget of 1.1 million US money. Had a weekend opening of 1.33 million. Had an opening weekend ranking of 17th. It was its highest ranking. And had a finished box office of 20.24 million, 4.56 million domestic, and 15.67 million international. Now, before Brian jumps into this, because this is his movie, I have heard of Ong Bak because of Tony Jaa. I think most people that at least like martial arts movies, but maybe don't watch them a lot, has heard of Tony Jaa. I mean, he's not Jet Li or Jackie Chan, but Tony Jaa was supposed to be kind of like the next one out of this group. And I knew the Ong Bak trilogy was his films, but I had never watched a single one of these. So this is a first time watch for me. But now I'm going to hand it over to Brian because this is his film. Go ahead with Ong Bak, the Thai Warrior.
Yeah, so Ong Bak, I didn't see it. I think most people didn't see this in theater, obviously, from the box office. But it was one that kind of grew like a following when it hit like DVD and Blu-ray and things like that. And yeah, he was kind of like the next big thing in martial arts, because you had, like Jackie Chan kind of came over and did his thing. It was a little bit more, more comedic kind of martial arts to it. Then you had Jet Li come in, and then you had the whole era of like the wire work kind of martial arts going on. But Tony Jaa, I think that one of the reasons this one kind of hit was it was kind of introducing audiences to a more I don't know, grittier style of martial arts.
More of an MMA-esque.
Yeah, a little bit more brutal. It was kind of like, it's basically a lot like a Jackie Chan style of martial arts, but without the comedic element. It was very fast. It was very moving on. It's Muay Thai. Obviously, it's called Ong Bak. Actually, one of the titles, it has Muay Thai Warrior instead of the Thai Warrior. So yeah, it was just he kind of hit the scene, and it was this new exciting form of martial arts, and which is, I think, why at the time a lot of people really loved it. I remembered really enjoying it. Revisiting it now, I don't know if I watched it since, obviously, but rewatching it now, it's like, it's not that exciting. It's not a bad movie by any means. I think I said it's in my review, it's like, it's no worse than like, the 80s, 90s Van Damme movies, but it's no better either. It's kind of the same paper thin plots, as Bloodsport and Kickboxer and some of those early Van Damme movies. But you think, oh, I watch it for the martial arts, and there's some good martial arts scenes and moves in this, but it's not really enough to make me love it. And I messaged Sean. I'm like, I think I made a mistake picking this one.
Yeah, of course, he waited to say that until after I watched the movie.
He watched it before I did, and so he watched it, and I'm like, well, Sean doesn't always agree with me, and I started watching it, and I'm like, oh, I remember this being a lot better than this. And we had that conversation, which you always have, which is, well, do you want to switch? And I'm like, well, then we'll have watched this for nothing.
Well,
so I looked at the list and considered some things. I'm like, you know what? Let's just stick with
little backstory, because like I said, and for people who watch Weekly Crusaders, we've had this conversation on there before. The way we discuss what we're going to pick is we go through something like Box Office Mojo, and we look at the box office numbers for the month of February, and we connect the dates with our timelines, and we write down anything that we would be remotely interested in picking. Brian had 2 picks. He had Ong Bak, and then he had my movie. Now me, I had 10 movies that I would have talked about. So I was like, do you want Saving Silverman? And then I'll just pick another movie. And Brian was like, yeah, but we already watched Ong Bak, and I don't want to have to watch another film. Which is weird that Brian says that, because Brian watches like 10 movies a week.
Well, plus I saw the list you had. I'm like, I don't really feel like watching those. So
my movies were not bad. First off, everybody, but Brian doesn't like a lot of like normally good films that people like. He likes weird offshoot films. So we ended up staying with Ong Bak. And then that's the thing. It's like, it's definitely The Night Comes for Us. It definitely was not that.
It's not. And that's just it. It's Tony Jaa. I mean, after this, he did have a career. I mean, besides the fact they did like 2 sequels to this, and they did the Protector series he also did, which maybe those are great. I haven't watched those since they first came out either. So we'll see if maybe
he did Monster Hunter.
Then he started getting to show up in some U.S. films like Monster Hunter. He was in one of the Fast and the Furious. I think it was 7.
It was one of them. They all jumble together.
Because the Fast and Furious season loves to jump onto like the latest, it person, and so they grabbed him, and then the next one they grabbed Iko Uwais, and I'm waiting for them to grab the RRR guys next. I figure that's got to be coming.
Well, honestly, I'd be happy if I saw them, just because that means that they're doing U.S. films.
I can almost guarantee one of them is going to show up at 11. Anyway.
Yeah, here's my main problem with Ong Bak, is that it takes like 35 minutes ish to get to any martial arts, and the plot up to that point is not exciting at all. It's relatively dull and boring, and there's this one character. Granted, she's around my age, so I'm not. She looks way younger.
Uh-huh.
But I looked up her real age. She's actually around my age. Her voice is like nails on a fucking chalkboard. It is bad.
I will say that this is a movie I wish I could find a dubbed version of, because I'm just gonna say it. This Thai is an ugly language. It's just it's some foreign languages they sound pleasant to listen to even if you have to read subtitles. This one is just kind of ugly, and especially her. I noticed the same thing. Whenever she talked, it was just like, oh.
It's almost like she got better through the movie, or it's either I just got
I think she
used
just
to it.
talked less through the movie.
She did talk less, but it was either I got used to her voice after that or whatever. Like they were playing this game at one point, and she was just going and going and going. I was just like, oh my god, shut the fuck up! Your voice is grating. It's like a female, not the same tone, but it's like almost like listening to Gilbert Gottfried just talk ad nauseum until he got tired of talking. but the other problem with this is that it's much like her voice. This movie's definitely not pleasant on the ears because yes, you're right. Thailand's not the greatest language to have to listen to. But then your main villain is a dude with a voice box like this. And it's like, was like, and I don't know if the actor is like that in real life. Because if he is, it's no different than hiring a deaf or blind actor. You're like, why'd you choose that? Well, it's because that's the actor. He's actually really good when they wanted the movie. Which, if that's the case, that's the case.
Yeah, maybe he's some legendary Thai actor we don't know about.
Yeah, if he's not like that in real life, that was a stupid as fuck decision to have the villain be that way. If he is, he is, and I'm not. Then I immediately negate everything I said. But if he's not that was a horrid choice to make him the villain. Because at first you're like you're watching this movie, and you keep they keep going to these like street fighting things, which was the best part of the movie. And you got like him, and you got this like weirdo, probably touches little boys guy he keeps betting with, and I'm like, I feel like these are the two old guys on the Muppets that critiques everybody. They just keep going back to him. I was like,
Statler and Waldorf, by the way.
Thank you. I was like, why are these fuckers important to the plot? And then you find out that this guy ends up being the main bad guy. But it's like, but you have like at least like 10 back and forths. And there's betting on each match, and they're trash talking to each other. And you're just like, why are we going back to these people? And then you find out that one actually has a more important spot. But Tony Jaa he's fine for what he is in it. The other character, Humle.
Yeah.
Humle. I'm not even gonna remotely even try to say his real name. That is, you can have all the fun you want.
I think somebody's just pounding on a keyboard at that point.
It literally does look like someone just went, that's a name. No offense to that. Just anyone else can try to say that.
We're just not going to try and pronounce it. That's all.
No. His character was actually the one character I actually like not gave a crap, but actually followed because it was like I know his character. His character is like almost like a Danny DeVito kind of character in these kinds of movies. But when it got to the actual like blood sport, which was just them fighting in like a Street Fighter competition, was like, okay, like is this what the movie is? Because like I'm for it. But it was literally just like the middle of the film. And
that's what it is. They'd have those fighting in a competition. And those were, I mean, like I said, it's a different kind of martial arts than we saw before this point. We've seen obviously since then, but it's more brutal. There's lots of elbows. They love their elbows and knees in these.
I would say this nothing. I'm not going to take anything from Tony Jaa because Tony Jaa's a phenomenal martial artist.
Yeah,
but his moveset's basically the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. He's basically just elbow. I was like, okay, cool. I see Dusty. I saw Dusty do this for like 30 years watching pro wrestling. Yeah. Granted, he's more athletic than Dusty Rhodes, but I'm just watching. I was like, dude, how many jumping elbow strikes until someone just goes block?
Well, that's just it. They love, and there's times when like they jump and the person actually would lean forward. The problem, this movie loved to do the thing where they do slow mo and then they show the same shot like 3 times from like different angles and things like that.
Yeah, they did that a lot.
The problem with slow mo is that you'd see people lean into shots, or you'd see them grimace before they got hit and things like that. It was actually quite
no different than watching a pro wrestling match and watching wrestlers that aren't good at making it look believable, and they show a slow mo. It's like, why did you guys choose to show that? Because it showed the guy stepping into place. It showed the guy embracing the hit. It showed the guy slapping his leg. It's like, you guys have to be better about showing the replays. And if you're going to show that replay, show it from a different angle that doesn't show that. Same thing with the camera footage. You guys have like all these replays at different angles. Pick an angle where it doesn't show the guy going like that.
I think they thought with the slow-mo, I mean, they did that somewhat in like Jackie Chan movies, but also this is coming out in 2003. This is another one of those movies coming out in the wake of The Matrix. But they obviously weren't going to do like bullet time, but they could do their super slow-mo shots. But the problem is, like I said, it just kind of showed the flaws in it. And the other thing about the Matrix thing is this movie, except for the scenes where they're like, in his little village, they gave it this like techno like soundtrack. It's totally absolutely trying to be the Matrix.
This was right up Brian's alley with picking movies with horrible scores.
And not only is it trying to imitate The Matrix, and it doesn't fit this at all.
No.
It actually takes away from it. Because I'm watching this movie going, this music just does not fit this scene at all.
Taxi car chase.
Yeah.
Music. I was just
that was where I really noticed it. Yeah.
I was like, what is the soundtrack that they're using?
It was trying to be The Matrix. It was trying to cash in on
it really was. And I will admit, like, as ridiculous as that car chase was, it was actually pretty enjoyable for what they did. Like, I didn't buy it as real at all, but I was like, okay, like, it's the stuff that worked, but there's a lot of like, this wouldn't work in real life. I mean, in a Fast and Furious movie, it works, but
well, I mean, there's one scene where he hits a guy with a knee, and also he flies up the other side of the car. There's another scene where he knees somebody who's wearing a motorcycle helmet, and the motorcycle helmet busts into pieces.
But here's the thing. Because once again, you watch it in slow-mo, he knees this, it cracks open like an egg, but the visor stayed intact. That was the best part. I was like, the visor didn't even budge.
Because otherwise it would show you that it's a stuntman. And
that was it. That was the thing too. It's like near the end, Humley's character.
Smash through the window?
Well, yeah, and then he gets thrown against like the gas station, like near the gas. And like he's got short buzzed hair in the movie. But obviously, this guy's not a martial artist. So whenever they threw him, you can see that it was a guy with slicked back, like
he was
blonde
slicked
hair.
back and made blonde. And there's one point where he dove out a window to get the guy, I think is what it was. And it was just so obvious.
Because the lighting shows the slicked back hair. Because I was like, well, that's clearly not him. You know, like at least with the other guys, like the guy's visor stayed on. So he was like, okay, you can't prove that's not that actor. But like that's the other thing too, is like it doesn't do a good job. Like when it establishes characters, it didn't do a good job of like was that Dawn that got hit on the motorcycle? Was that Dawn?
Yes.
Okay, because like they didn't establish that well enough that was Dawn. It was just like
all of a sudden in the third act, he was the only person who was running around with keeping his helmet on, and I'm like, is it because that actor couldn't fight? Maybe I don't know.
But like that was like the main bad guy until you found out that the guy was. And I was like, man, they just kind of abandoned that character in general. Like, did he die off screen and I didn't recognize him? I was like, or is he the motorcycle dude? It's like he probably was the motorcycle dude. But they just completely just like, all right, well, that character's done. It's like, well, no. And then they left the girl there. It's like those guys are gonna wake up. Like that girl's but then she just magically somehow makes it back to the cave. Like they're on motorcycles going to that cave. She's on foot, and she somehow made it there by the end. I was like, no, I don't buy that.
I'm glad that in the end they had Humley died, because he got hit in the head with this giant hammer like multiple times, and like there's no way he's gonna live through that.
And then that big like Buddha head like kind of fell on him. And then his arm was like broken, like severely.
And like if he lives through this, it's going to be ridiculous. But he didn't, of course. And to go along with your slick back hair thing is that then the final scene of the movie has like Tony Jaa's character returning back to his village with a really bad bald cap. He had a bald cap over his hair.
It looked really bad. I do want to ask you this, two things, and you probably can't answer either one. But I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to ask Brian about this because I know Brian's seen the movie before. So there's that one fight where Tony Jaa's character, what is Tony's name? I forgot what it's
he is Ting.
They should have just left him as Tony.
Ting.
I said that Ting.
Oh,
I said they should have just left him as like Jaa or Tony's name in the movie. So Ting has to like throw this fight against the main guy's bodyguard, and he injects himself. Like, is that supposed to be like HGH or PCP or
I guess he turned into Bane. I don't know.
So, like, it made him
did he have like 5 vials of it and jammed it himself or something?
Like, he basically made him into the Juggernaut. Like he didn't feel pain and he was super strong all of a sudden, but they never explained that.
I guess maybe when somebody's like on PCP and they say they're just like monsters,
impervious to nullifying pain. But the second thing was when the Buddha helmet falls in the third act, they do a wide shot. And it looked like the head cracked, and it looked like it was gold. But then they never showed it again. Like it's like when the head first falls, the head's like this, and the camera's on it, and there's like this brief spot right here, and it's shining like it's gold. And I was like, oh, that's why the bad guy wants it. It's because it's a gold statue. But then like they never like went back to it at all.
No, I think because he's basically dealing in selling antiquities and things for millions of dollars that he's not supposed to have a hold of. And I think that was just a lighting thing because these people that they valued it because of its value to them on a religious level and things like that. But I got no indication that it was because of precious metals. Right.
When we're done shooting this, I'm gonna have to show you that scene and show you what I saw. Because I was like watching, I was like,
I believe you. I just don't think
that makes more sense. And then it's like they never went back. I was like, oh, like that's how he's gonna make his village better. It's because it's money. But it's like, oh wait, no, it's a Buddha head there. He would never do that.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But
in the end, I mean, it's not a bad movie per se. I mean, we've seen far worse. It's not a good movie. I think it's just at the time, I think it might have been more impressive. And it gave us Tony Jaa, who's gone on to do some really good movies, and it's opened the door for more people like from Indonesia with Iko Uwais and all those guys.
The Raid guys is what we call them. Yeah, the Raid.
So I mean, I don't necessarily regret picking it. I'm just not nearly as impressed as I remember being.
You even said when we were discussing on whether you were going to keep this or not that you think that you were thinking of the second or third film.
Well, I saw there's an Ong-Bak 2 and 3, which I thought I remember that people saying that 3 was a real disappointment, but I'm like, was it 2 I saw? Because I thought I remember the elephant plot line, which is from the second one.
Because when you said Ong-Bak, I go, oh, the elephant movie.
Yeah, and there's a couple of shots I recall seeing that I'm like,
because I remember him seeing like he literally is doing like shoulder lifts with the elephant tusks and stuff. Yeah. There's no elephant in this movie until like the very, very end.
But I can't see myself watching the second one without watching the first one. So that's still a mystery to me is which one I actually saw.
What's funny though is according to Rotten Tomato, the first one's the only one that got a positive review. The second one is rotten, and the third one's even lower.
Yeah.
So, which doesn't mean anything by us because there's a lot of rotten films that we like and a lot of fresh ones we don't.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you thought that you may have picked the wrong Ong-Bak.
Or I may have. It may be The Protector I was thinking of. I mean, I know I saw this before. It's just a matter of if the movie I thought I was picking might have been too. At this point, I don't even know because I remember so little about it. So anyway,
this is the first. It only took the third or fourth episode for us to finally pick one. We're like, crap, I picked the wrong movie, kind of thing. But next we're gonna go to a movie that we both enjoyed because we both had this chosen as our pick, and that is the funny comedy Saving Silverman. Saving Silverman came out February 9th, 2001, had a budget of $22 million. It's funny that had like 21 million more of a budget than Ong-Bak. Had a weekend opening of 7.41 million, had a weekend opening weekend ranking of third, which is highest ranking, and had a finished box office of 26.08 million, 19.4 million domestic, and 6.68 million international. Now, I'm trying to think of the right way to describe this movie. This is one of those comedies that when you go back and you look at the early 2000s, which was king for comedies, like that was like the golden age of comedies, was I think like the early 2000s. You're not going to look back and go Saving Silverman, but you go and you quote something for Saving Silverman or you bring up Saving Silverman, all of a sudden everyone's like, oh yeah, Saving Silverman. Like it's like to me, I consider this a cult fan favorite. Like it's not going to be like rated in the top 10, maybe even the top 25 best comedies in the 2000s. But I think like secretly is loved by so many people, but a lot of people just don't either remember it. It's almost like you have to unlock that part of their brain to remember this movie, or they just don't want to admit that they liked it. But I love this movie. I told Brian this. I quote this movie way more than I should have. And to this day, I still quote this movie so many times. And no one ever gets it. No, every time I quote this movie, no one ever gets it, which tells me that either they've never seen the movie or these scenes did not hit them the way they hit me. And the der, I say der instead of duh. And I always say it the way Steve Zahn does, was der, and no one gets that. And then I don't know how many times I've ever said, and until I had subtitles, I never knew what the actual verbiage was.
I'm not even sure it's a literal translation. I think it's just nonsense, but
no, not the der.
No, I know what you're talking about.
No, the comedy. Like I have said that so many freaking times, but I never knew that it was like, what was it? Come and get is it coming?
I think sometimes said "come on, yeah, huh," which I don't even think that's necessarily what he's saying. I think
that's what Neil says when he sings, but it's literally just Jack Black running it into one word. Come on, yeah! It's like I've said that so many times.
For me, the one that's worked its way into my daily life is I cannot eat nachos without saying, if they stick together, it's one nacho.
One giant nacho.
It's the second best nacho quote in movies.
Yes, the first one going to oh god. What?
What if Adam Driver?
Yeah, What If? I almost said Just Friends. Like that's not a great movie. Yes, Adam Driver has the best nacho line in the history of movies.
Yes.
This movie, Steven Silverman, it's got Jason Biggs, it's got Amanda Peet, who was like at the height of her career at that moment. You got Jack Black, who's known, but he hasn't hit like he's still like 2 years away from like School of Rock, where he really exploded then. And then you got Steven Zahn, who we love that man so damn much. We will defend Steve Zahn to anyone who wants to talk or besmirch the name Steve Zahn. And I mean, it's a raunchy comedy. It is, but it's not an offensive comedy. At least I didn't feel offended, which you and I rarely feel offended by any of this shit anyway.
Oh, never offended. Although you were surprised that you thought you were watching the PG-13 cut.
Yes. Because this is a PG-13 movie, but I actually ended up watching the unrated cut. And it's funny because I've seen this movie over 10 times. I've never caught the R-rated version, but I actually picked it up on Vudu to watch it. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, when were there boobs in this movie?
Well, that's just it. Is the Vudu does not have a separate listing for the unrated. But,
yeah.
So the one version to watch, and it's labeled just as the movie PG-13, but we're pretty sure it's the unrated version.
Yeah, because there's this one scene in the movie, which real quick plot. Jason Biggs is a guy who's a hopeless romantic. He hits on Amanda Peet in the bar. Amanda Peet is this narcissistic, like controlling girlfriend.
Mega bitch.
What's that?
And a mega bitch.
And a mega bitch. Oh, she plays that so well though.
That's like her thing.
That is her zone. Yeah. And Steve Zahn and Jack Black are Big's lifelong friends, and she basically is cutting him off from them, and they're trying to do everything they can to basically end the relationship. That's the quickest plot point we can get to without going any further. But it's I totally lost my train of thought of where I was going before I went to a little quick plot. But the other funny part about this too, and eventually I'll find my point again that I was going to go to. My dad's Jewish, so it's hard not to have grown up not hearing Neil Diamond. So that's another special thing about this movie for me is the Neil Diamond, and knowing that they had that moment where they're all three doing the band. I love that so much. But what I love about this movie, and Brian and I have had this talk on one of our shows before, is that sometimes some of the funniest moments in these movies isn't necessarily the line that they're like the main joke. It is the movements, the little things that characters do.
It's a subtle physical comedy, which Steve Zahn and Jack Black both do phenomenally. Because there are just little moments in this film that I die laughing, and it's only if you're looking over here, you don't see it, or if you're just listening to the vocals and you're not watching the reactions, you miss it. But like, there's so many amazingly beautiful comedic moments in this film that Jack Black and Steve Zahn have that are like not even vocal. And it's beautiful. I love so many of these lines. One of my favorite ones, and this is in the trailer, and this is a primary scene, but it's when because they eventually Zahn and Jack eventually kidnap Amanda Peet, and she's escaping the house, and Jack Black is terrified of her, and he's basically hiding in the corner with a towel over his head, and she's running out the door, and then realizes that he's hiding, and she runs back in, slams the door, and he's like, "Oh, thank God!" and sees her, and goes ah! and runs away. It's just because it's Amanda Peet's character. Like, she's trying to run for her life because she's been kidnapped, but she has the thought process to go, I'm gonna fuck with him because I know he's terrified of me, to come back into the house to do that gag, and it worked to perfection. To have the mindset of going, I need to escape to save my life, but I had to stop and fuck with him. That's what I love. I love that about this movie so damn much. I talked a lot. Brian, go. Yeah, this is a movie. I mean, it's It's got a funny premise to it. It's got some good thing, but really what makes this movie is just the cast. Jason Biggs he has definitely his comedic parts, but he's essentially the straight man of this movie.
He's the Justin Bartha of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he has his funny parts, and he's a funny guy. We've seen American Pie movies, things like that, but he's the straight man in this movie, around which everybody else kind of knows. Mm-hmm. Amanda Peet always kind of playing that same role. I mean, even on TV when she was in Studio 60, she basically played the same character, although she ended up softening. You got to know the real her, and she was much less a character, but she essentially started off as that hard-nosed bitch character, which she plays very well. And she also usually plays these intelligent people, like in here when she's outsmarting, she's like,
she's always the smartest one in the room.
Yeah, she's never playing like the dumb broad, and she plays her role very well, and she's good here. But for me, and for anybody who watches this movie, this is the Zahn and Black show. Those two people, this is just a showcase for the two of them, because neither of them was big enough to lead a movie at that point.
At the time, yeah.
But they were both good. I've liked Steve Zahn since, I think first place I ever saw him was Reality Bites. And then from that,
it was That Thing You Do.
From that movie on, I love Steve Zahn. He's the best part of almost any movie he's in. Although here he has Jack Black and him both, because Jack Black same way, which I mean he appeared in tiny parts and things like that. But once he started getting roles like this and supporting roles, that's when you're like, oh, that guy's got it. And of course he went on to have a huge career. But they both make this movie endlessly quotable. It's not just what they say; it's the way they say it. Like I said, the little physical comedy moments. Like there's a moment where Jack Black's trying to hide in the shower. He's just basically running in a circle, and just the way he does that, I was laughing.
He's wearing pantyhose, and the pantyhose are flipping around like nunchucks.
Yeah. So I mean, just the little things they add to it. I mean, it was clear that they were going to be the best part of this movie. Like you said, the Neil Diamond thing works, because I love the when they're singing it, in the street as their little band. I think that they do a great job at that.
They do.
And then when they have the Indian guy come in and be a part of the member, that
come on, Cherry Baby.
A whole another level of comedy, which I mean, some people have problems with, but come on, it's fun.
I love the part where they're doing it with him, and he's like, "This blows, dude." And then Jack Black tells her, Steve Zahn is like, "Dude, she burned Neil." 3, 4, just start going angry singing.
And there's the fact that it was Neil Diamond. I think Neil Diamond, which honestly I didn't know was a big Jewish thing. Which explains Jason Biggs. I don't know if Steve Zahn and Jack Black are supposed to be Jewish too. I don't know.
Well, Steve Zahn was at the concert when his mom was pregnant.
So that's right.
I don't know what Jack Black's connection.
But I think this is the choice of Neil Diamond. The Jewish thing aside, because like I said, I didn't know that. I think it was just a weird enough choice to work, because it's not like a mainstream person who you'd think that people would be obsessed with and be in a cover band of and things like that. So it's just weird enough to work in a comedy, but without being, just completely obscure or completely stupid. It's like you can totally buy into this world.
You buy into everything that happens in here.
I don't know if I needed the full concert over the end credits, but it was just the end credits, so I don't care.
Then you just have to let that go. But
it's just the cast talked about it. And Arlie Ermy.
Arlie Ermy,
who essentially has, he started off in like the DI and in Full Metal Jacket as a drill instructor, and he's basically made his career ever since then being a parody of himself. Yeah. But he does it so well, and he plays the same character here. He plays in a lot of things, but he does it so well, and he's like the perfect foil to because he's like the serious. He's basically a drill instructor kind of guy, except he's a gym teacher.
He was the football coach.
Sorry. Yeah. Who obviously putting that against these dorky guys, it works out real well. But
there's so many. I actually did it. Quoted it today at work. I was doing the thing. And no one got it. No one called me out on it. There's one point in the movie where they're talking on walkies, and Jack Black keeps doing the sound after, and like Steve Zahn's like, "Dude, you don't have to do that. The walkie already does that." Okay, I promise I won't do that again. Sorry, that was the last time. Yeah. And I worked. I kept doing it, and no one was calling me out. And I was like, I hate that no one at my job knows me like that. It's like, but and the come on, that's one of Brian's favorites.
Oh yeah, there's a scene where
we're not even going to give it away, because anyone who hasn't seen this movie should watch this movie. But come on.
Yeah, just Steve Zahn takes one word used multiple times, and just only Steve Zahn could do it this way. Anyway.
Yeah, and that's everything too. Is like Amanda Peet, like as playing that character she always plays, it meshes well with Zahn and Jack Black. And like there's so many moments where she gets the better of Zahn, and Zahn just like yells like take her a friend. It just storms off, and it's like I don't know how they got through these scenes without just constantly breaking.
Yeah.
And also I will say Amanda, is it Detmer or Detmer? Detmer. It's a blink you'll miss a moment, but like her backstory, she's was the girl that Jason Biggs loved in high school, and she becomes a character bigger later in the movie. But they're like doing like a flashback thing, and like her family's like a circus. It's like a blink and you miss it joke. Like her family's like the freak show at the circus. Did her younger brother, the one looking at dog, that just looked like Robert De Niro? It did. He was with a face. I was like, dude, you're just doing a Robert De Niro. Is that a De Niro joke? Because that looked like De Niro with a dog face. They're like, look at it again. Like, that's 100% De Niro. But it's funny. But this movie, most people probably go, this movie's fucking stupid. It's like, well, and yes, I know we did a stinker on Cinemasochism. We attacked Kung Pao last week because it's so fucking dumb and it's not a funny movie. Everyone's like, dude, you just gotta watch it, in the right mood and stuff like that. Brian's gotten more hate about it than I have. But and everyone keeps saying you have to watch it drunk or high, which Brian and I don't do, and that shouldn't be a requirement to find something funny. But whereas with this, I love her go, "Boo, that movie's so stupid." It's like you gotta just embrace the jokes, and they go, "Well, how can you embrace this and not embrace that?" First off, this movie's coherent and funny.
I see. I don't see any correlation between the two at all because one is just stupid. This one, I wouldn't even call this movie stupid because I think the humor in it is great.
It's great,
but it's not just dumb physical humor. It's the way it actually works, and it becomes part of the story. It's not just throwing in a random joke for a random joke's sake. So.
Yeah, and it's not even like the characters are stupid. They're just they just. I mean, what I'm saying is like they're not like Idiocracy where they're like their IQ is like insane. They're just guys that don't through. Yeah. But it's one of those things where the comedy, the physical comedy, and the dialogue between Zahn and Jack are just so magnetic. And it makes me kind of bummed that they never did anything else together after this because I think those two together should have done another movie because they were that.
Oh, I would have loved to see them become like the next great comedy duo. Like people thought that like Chris Farley and David Spade were going to be essentially before he died because they had done a couple movies together, and people were like, oh, I could see them doing a bunch of movies together. I could see Steve Zahn and Jack Black doing 12 movies together.
They still could, but Steve Zahn doesn't do the comedy that much anymore.
Well, except for just this weekend, he is in Your Place or Mine, the Netflix movie with Ashton Kutcher. He's a supporting character, but he's very Steve Zahn. But he's only in a few scenes here and there.
Good. That makes me want to watch it more now, knowing that Zahn's in the movie. And that's the thing is like we've said a lot of things that happened in this movie. We still left so much out. This is definitely a movie that if you've never seen Saving Silverman, there's so much funny shit. And yes, there are some stupid moments in the movie, but most comedies have stupid moments. But nonetheless, if you're a fan of Jack Black, you're a fan of Steve Zahn, hell, if you're a fan of Amanda Peet Biggs, they have big parts in the film, but they're not Steve Zahn and Jack Black. You should go out of your way to watch this because this movie is just gut busting laughing. Because that's always a worry that Brian and I have whenever we go back and we watch a comedy that's like 20, even 10 plus years old. Is am I still gonna find the jokes that I found hilarious back then still funny today? More times than not, they don't. They're not as funny anymore. You watch it fondly, but you're not laughing out loud because either A, you know the hits are coming, or B, your humor has changed and you realize like I remember laughing really hard at this when I was younger. It's not that funny anymore, but I remember loving this. This movie still hit me at every moment. I still laughed super hard at every scene that I should have laughed super hard on. Even when I knew it was coming, I quoted along with it like lovingly. Like I love this movie so damn much. It's not like a 4.5-star film or anything by any means, but it is definitely one of those movies that like when I think about the early 2000s comedies, I'm like, Saving Silverman's right up there and ones that I love to see.
Yeah, this is one of those comfort comedies for me where it's like, I'm not going to go and be like, oh, I love this story. Like, who cares about the story? I just love just the kind. It's the kind of movie I can put on just while I'm doing something else. And I just, like you said, I'll quote along with it still to this day. And
you'll stop what you're doing for the certain scene, either because A, you know what mannerism is about to happen, or B, you know the line's coming. But yeah, that is our show for this week. If you guys enjoy these movies, first off, we apologize for Umbach because we didn't really like it, but
apologize for it, but
no, but I know like these are supposed to be like our praise movie episodes, not like critique.
Yeah, they're not all going to be hits. Once in a while, we're going to revisit one and be like,
yeah, but
most likely mine. So.
Yeah, if you guys like this episode, hit that like, share, subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up with the Movie Crusaders. And of course, remember to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we have our latest episode of Cinemasochism, where we are going to be talking about Brian.
We are going to be talking about the movie Soul Man, which has a whole history to itself, and we're going to try not to get canceled. Check it out.
That is definitely a movie that we are going to have to tiptoe around, and I am.
We already did tiptoes. What are you talking about?
We did. Yes, that's very, very true. We had a tiptoe, and we're not going to get Kung Pao'd out of being canceled.
Oh God.
That's a movie. That's an episode that I'm really gonna have to like. How much of this am I gonna have to edit? Because we're gonna have to watch what we say. But going into next week, we still don't have next week locked down yet. I think Brian's got 3 movies he's still trying to decide on. I still got 3 movies we're still trying to decide on. So I can't give you any clues.
Just tune in anyway.
Yeah, tune in.
Look at the thumbnail. Check it out.
It's our Valentine's Day episode, but I don't know if we're picking any like rom-coms or not. Like,
well, it's our Valentine's week episode. I don't know if it's gonna be Valentine's.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? But we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, the next we got Cinemasochism. Movies that came out this week. Magic Mike. Neither one of us has seen because Brian lives in the town that Footloose was based on. Apparently, there's no Magic Mike showings within an hour of Brian, and I just don't want to go see that in theaters because I feel like that'd be very awkward for me to go watch that in theaters. Because I know that it's like going into a kid's Pixar movie by yourself, and every parent looks at you like, "Why are you here?" And I don't. It's like it would be like me trying to go into a 50 Shades.
No, I disagree, Sean. The movie lets out. You go out in the parking lot, and out comes a bunch of women who are now all horny because they just watch this movie. There you go.
But the problem is that
Big
those
move.
women are not even cougars; they're a lot older, and I don't want any part of that.
You're saber-tooth tigers.
Yeah, exactly. But and then there was somebody that I used to know, which I didn't watch, but Brian did. Brian.
It was enjoyable. You know, nothing great. It was. I'm not sure I'll ever watch it again, but it was fun for what it was.
And then Your Place or Mine on Netflix, which I still haven't watched yet. Now I will because Steve Zahn.
Kind of the same thing. Steve Zahn obviously is in it though, so it's worth watching.
Yes. Next week, Ant-Man will be here. We were supposed to shoot a Marvel Phase video. I think we might still do that. We might not. Depends on how our schedules turn out. We were supposed to do that back last year. But I got COVID.
Real life happens. Yeah.
Well, yeah, COVIDness and sickness, and I was like, I can't shoot this video. So we were gonna try to do it before Ant-Man, and we forgot about it. And Ant-Man's next week, so we may or may not shoot that episode that we were gonna do. But we definitely will have an Ant-Man review next week. And yes, Brian will be a part of that review. As much as he'll be like, I don't want to do it, you're doing it. Okay. If not, we'll be getting ready to shoot this. I'm like, gotcha, we're doing Ant-Man. But yeah, we got those coming down the pipe, and then obviously next week's episode will be Weekly Crusaders. So feel free to keep checking out the channel. My name's Sean Waskrew. That's Brian Michaels. We are the Movie Crusaders. And yeah, go watch some movies and have a happy Valentine's Day for people who celebrate it. And if you don't celebrate it, then just go have fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.